Anyway, Ken passed away, and Ron came up with the idea to make it a memorial surf boat, and it's become quite famous. Surf Lifesaving Australia like us to have it at the Australian Championships as the centrepiece for the moment of reflection.
Lucky the 4 oars, now to see what's in front of them.
Call out the instigators, because there's something in the air. We got to get together sooner or later, because the revolution's here, and you know it's right.
We love the road, and even though we're all in our 70s and 80s, we still enjoy what we did when we were 20.
We have got to get it together. We have got to get it together now.
We thought we'd call it Old Mates, and consequently that's where it all came from. Old Mates, gone but never forgotten. We'd actually been doing river rows with some old mates here in Sydney. We decided we'd buy our own old surf boat and fix it up, and which is what we've done.
I remember Peter McWhirter, who played for Valleys. Pete rode with us for a number of years. He was a past club captain here at Coolum, and he said to me that rowing surf boats, he said it taught him how hard he could train without dying, and it helped his football.
The Old Mate story began back in the early 1960s. As teenagers growing up in Brisbane, they played footy with and against each other in winter. And then they rowed in surf boats with and against each other over summer. And after all those summers together, here they are, still rowing in their 70s and 80s, every Saturday morning. Old mates, great friends, forever young. You have to wonder if we'll ever see the like of them again.
I joined Maroochydore here as a 14-year-old. Yeah.
Where were you living?
I was living at Paddington. We lived behind the Paddington Hotel there. And Mum and Dad used to come up here on holidays, and I'd come down the beach here, and I got to know a few of the lifesavers, and they said, you know, you can join as a cadet. I was only a little fellow, and my nickname was Tom Thumb. And so they took me under their wing a bit, and when they went rowing, I'd sit at Graham Ashton's feet. And that's how I got into the boat business, you know.
So while Gary was finding his feet on the Sunshine Coast at the Maroochydore Club, Ron was rowing with his brother at Narrabeen down in Sydney. But no matter the club, the rowing fraternity always stuck together and looked after their own.
The competition was always pretty strong, but we were always respectful of each other. We always looked after each other. If somebody got in trouble, didn't matter what crew they were in, everybody jumped in. When we were young blokes training for surf boats, it was no different to training for the Olympics, because the training was just as hard, just as intense.
It was very serious training, and we trained our bums off, you know, and it's hard work. I reckon the only sport that you compare to this would be boxing, I think, in respect of the effort you put in.
The essence of it was that even if they closed the beach, they'd put a surf carnival on. That was the thinking in those days.
The summer of 1964, John joined the Coolum Surf Lifesaving Club. He was just 17.
Well, no one told me about her.
Well, when I first joined the surf club here, it was the heart of the club. The surf boat fraternity were the leaders. You know, with fundraising, with you know, volunteer. Anytime you wanted volunteers, you'd just go to the boat section. They'd all put their hand up, and it was fantastic.
Well, let me tell you about the way she looked, the way she had tan, the color of her hair. Her voice was soft and cool, her eyes were clear and bright, but she's not there.
John was well entrenched in racing surf boats and fundraising for the club when he met and soon married the girl of his dreams. They got together just up the road one Saturday afternoon at the Noosa Reef Hotel.
Vicky, do you remember when you first met John?
Can I remember? Yes, I can remember, just.
They say we're young and we don't know, we won't find out till we grow.
They were good looking, all of them. So we were thrilled. And then we meet them and immediately, you know, you're in with it. And all of a sudden I'm a Brisbane girl coming to the coast every weekend to Coolum Beach.
I got you, babe. I got you, babe.
And the whole rowing team became my family. Got my 21st at their place. Our wedding was all together, just a big family thing with the lifesavers. It was amazing. We were invited, we all went to the surf carnivals. They were great days. So you got the kids, the beach, the surf carnivals, boats, boys, sunburn, everything that went, you know, with that. But they were always together.
I got flowers.
Between the posts, and after 9 minutes,
Basically it was you know, surf club in the summer, surf boats, and then rugby league in the winter. And back then, the seasons really didn't overlap.
In football, you might have 17 in a squad, but you only ever get to know about 3 or 4 of those blokes closely, they're teammates. But in a surf boat, you become bonded. Like you really rely on each other because it's all teamwork.
When we first joined, I came up with a lot of mates from West. We obtained our bronze. Our strongest drawing power here was probably mainly guys from West Valleys and Norse, and a few eastern suburbs boys came up at one stage. But how I got involved with boats, I was running along the beach one day and Mass was coming the other way, and we stopped and had a chat, and he said, "I'll come and try a boat."
Mass is Ian Massey. At 82, Ian's the oldest member of the Old Mates rowing crew.
there is a house in New Orleans. They call the rising sun.
To be any good at either of them, you have to be mentally strong. Your physical ability is governed by just how strong you are mentally. If you're very strong mentally, you can do the extra yards. If you haven't got the mental strength, you can't just, you give away, you stop. And I don't believe in stopping.
There was a really good connection, Rob, because the rugby league blokes treated the surf boat rowing as conditioning and strengthening for the next season. And playing a team sport like rugby league, they fitted into the boats very well.
Stand up and cheer for Norths again this year.
Ian won a string of premierships with the Norths Devils in the Brisbane Rugby League back in the 60s, and he was recently inducted into the club's greatest team of all time.
It's a team sport, and when you've got a team sport, it's always, you can't let your mates down. It's always a matter of, I've got to do the best for you. You never ever bludge on your mates. You always gave 100%.
Apart from being in the boat crew, Ian can be found almost every morning at sunrise down at the Spit Malulubar paddling his surf ski or going for a swim.
At our age, competition's not so important anymore. Good health is. and rowing is one of our exercises to keep in good health.
People try to put us to down, talking about my generation, just because we get around, talking about my generation.
And you know that you can't just get in the boat and hope it's going to work. You're doing work out of the boat as well. Like, you know, we've got our ergos at home, or Mass paddles his ski, we ride our bikes. You know, I've got a stand up, I paddle on the canal at the back of our house. And it just keeps you actively moving all the time, which I think is really important.
You don't stick around if you can't pull your weight in the boat. And other members will let you know, or the sweep will let you know that you're not up to scratch, and somebody else will jump in.
You see a bloke like Ronnie Trembath or Massey in the boat giving their best, you give your best too.
John's very positive. He wakes up in the morning, it's very annoying. Good morning, everyone. I woke up again, here I am. Great. Let me have a cup of tea.
If somebody rings up and says, oh, good, I just thought I'd check and see if you wake up this morning.
I think they stretch the truth a bit these days on what really happened, but anyway, we're allowed to do that, aren't we? Once you get over 70.
Something to get you pulling the belt too.
Oh yeah, we do, shall I say, put a bit of bullshit over.
And it's coffee, chatting, laughing. John can tell all his jokes, everyone laughs.
I love each other's company. Like, I mean, I think we mainly row now for a cup of coffee afterwards. But, you know, it's just great to relive old memories. Like, we tell the same stories over and over again. Like, they're boring as batshit to most people, but we get a kick out of it.
A bit of company, talk a bit of bullshit which goes on, and listen to John, because you've got to do a lot of listening when John's around.
Yeah, I think I told him most of those stories. But yeah, he likes to sort of recycle the same jokes and just changes the names, that's all.
I'll tell you a very funny story. He's come round to pick me up, to take me up to get my radium treatment, and he had a little white fluffy dog, and John dresses immaculately, you know, so we've gone up to Nambour to the radium clinic, and John's dog's name was Honey.
I can remember it like yesterday. I was sitting in the surgery waiting room with Honey, the dog.
They called me in, Mr. Barban, can you come in? I said to John, wait here and I'll see you, honey. Anyway, the ladies have thought that John and I were a couple.
People thought they were a couple because they had the little dog.
She said, oh, would your partner like to come in and sit in? And my last treatment there, and they've written on the back, good luck to you and Honey. We hope you have a bright future together, you know.
So even when times are tough, like when Gary was battling cancer, they always seem to find a way to have a laugh and do their best to look on the bright side of life.
They look out for each other because quite a few of them have lost wives. They're at that stage, they're on their own. There's been quite a few dementia, different illnesses that have happened.
Over the rainbow, way up high.
Your mental health as well. The loss of the loved one is very hard mentally, more so than physically. And so, you know, that all that does help towards overcoming the grief.
John Ellingsen used to come around to my place. I was living by myself, and I was pretty much incapacitated, and John used to bring me around meals that his wife had cooked. And I tell you, when you have friends like that, and you know.
I used to go and see him in hospital when he was being treated, and I thought he's not going to make it. And mate, he came through it, and he is still, mate, he's one of the happiest, most positive blokes you could ever meet.
So his diary, if you looked in his diary, it would be full of names of all these men he rings every single day. There's someone different. It's either their birthday or he's heard they're sick. He'll go and see them. He gets other blokes to come. He rings someone else and says, I've heard someone's sick, can you send me their number?
Oh yeah, like my wife passed away 14 odd years ago, my first wife, and through a very quick and sudden illness, and Lofty got me back in a boat then. I was out of a crew then. He ran come and row with me, you know, so I went with 3 other mates and we rowed together for 3 years, and that really got me back in track. And then just prior to that, they came to me and said, 4 of my mates came up and said, what are you doing? I said, oh, well, I'm not sure yet. I'm taking my son and daughter away for a holiday and we'll be back in a week. And they said, well, we've got tickets to Hawaii. We're taking you to Hawaii.
Oh, it's fantastic, you know, just the support and, you know, knowing that people care.
While they now mostly row on the river and sometimes in the ocean on a calm day, over the years they've competed in some of the biggest surf any crews can recall.
He said, come on, you've got to go, you've got to go, you've got to go. He said, oh, hold your breath.
Won a few races here and there. We got bashed by the surf. The surf beat us quite a lot of times. But that's surf boat rowing.
For Peter, the first introduction to the perils of racing surf boats came at his first carnival as a kid in a junior crew.
Well, when he's moving right up close to me.
And it was at Kawana, and it was Kawana at its best. It was huge. Next, I don't know how many times it rolled, but it did about 2 or 3 somersaults, and the timber oars and timber boats in those days, and one of the oars went through the bottom of the boat like an arrow. The understatement, I said I wasn't shitting my pants. We climbed onto this bloody hooter. And in those days you had to wear the life vests, and they were the old canvas ones in those days. Oh, mongrel things. I must admit, I think I was pretty anxious to get back to the back, and I might have gone a little bit early, and Fred Tor in front of me came across, and you wouldn't believe it, it went straight up inside my jacket like that and pinned me to the side of the boat, and I couldn't move. And, I was struggling like hell underneath the boat because I was still stuck under there when we finished, and I couldn't get out, and I was starting to swallow water, and I was in trouble, and I think I actually gave up. And just as that happened, the oar had come out of the rollick, and I floated to the surface. I didn't have a licence or a car in those days, but if I had had one, I would have been gone home. It'd be the end of my rowing career.
One of the most infamous Australian surf boat championships was held at Bancoura, Victoria in 1977, and the boys were in it to their back teeth.
Next thing I know, all these blokes pulled out, and we were 15. We were in the 30s. I've gone, shit. They were breaking, like they had to set the cans, like, you know, it wasn't even a jet boat, it was like a Coast Guard. And they put it out about 100 yards past where they were breaking. So it was a long race as well, and you had this huge bloody break to get through. And I thought, oh, time to get real. And yeah, it was bloody scary as shit.
Anyway, we got smacked, and when we got that back bank and we got hit, and I looked up and there was only Mass and I left in the boat. There's no oars, nothing. And we're sitting there and I said, what are we doing? He looked at me and said, well, I'm staying. I said, well, I looked out and there's this big green lump coming. I went, well, I don't mind to swim, I'll see you in there. So I bailed.
And once you get into that race mode and you're into that zone, you trust completely in your sweep and the guys that you row with.
Although now and again, trusting in your sweep can get you into trouble, even when you're rowing on the river.
I told them not to raise that, not to mention that.
Oh, were you the sweeper?
I was sweeping and I said, well, I can take a shortcut through here. We ended up surrounded by sandbanks. So we had to hop out of the boat and carry it, 50 metres across this sandbank into some water again.
In surf boat, everybody does a heavy work, except for the sweep, of course. He's the one who gets the bludge up the back. But you've got to hope he's good, because otherwise he'll bring you undone.
Competing, though, was just part of being a clubby. For the two Peters, just getting to their club, Brough Island, on any given weekend was a heck of a journey. But this was a home away from home. Friendships forged forever.
I was 15. I joined Brough 1965. Up until then, I was probably the proverbial mummy's boy, but it changed my life.
Had to get the barge across in those days. There was no bridge, and there was a sand track across the island.
Sitting as a 15-year-old in the car, travelling to Brough, and I'd be listening to the older, the seniors, and they'd be sort of telling you things and giving you tips and what to do and what not to do.
More about the facilities, I suppose, the wood stoves and the bacon and eggs they'd cook up for breakfast, and there'd be more black crap in the frying pan than you'd imagine. And
as a 15-year-old, we rode out, and then it was just a lovely half-metre wave, and we caught it and surfed it in, and I was wrapped. It hooked me, and I've just never given it up. I just love it.
It's a very important part of our boating fraternity, the memorial boat. It's located on the beach here, just to the north of the commentary position. If you'd like to come and have a look at the memorial boat, check out the names of our past boaties who
We get lots of comments with people saying, gee, we saw your surf boat.
Who goes on the
Pardon?
Who dictates who goes on the boat?
Oh, mate, we just, people contact us.
Yeah.
They say so-and-so's died.
So for Queensland though, or is
No, all these here in New South Wales, South Australia, Victoria, they're from all over. Queenslanders are mainly on the other side.
Okay.
Yep. Have you heard of a bloke called Spaz Hurst?
No.
I rode with Spaz for many years. He had Tourette's syndrome and he couldn't stop saying the F word.
Oh shit.
Didn't matter where you were. Hey, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. Probably one of the best things we've ever done with surf boats. We took 26 surf boats to Gallipoli for the centenary of the Anzac landing, and it was fantastic. It was a really emotional trip. It was great.
The Old Mates have won state, national and world titles, but nothing compares to when they rowed into Anzac Cove for the centenary of the Gallipoli landing.
Mate, that was one of the most moving experiences that I've ever had. I'm almost starting to get a bit teary. You've mentioned it.
When I was a young man, I carried made me pack, and I lived the free life of the rover.
When we got out, sort of in knee-deep water, it's all rock. You can hardly stand up. And then to know that 35 of them never even made it to shore because they had 65-pound packs on and they went straight to the bottom.
Then in 1915, my country said, son, it's time.
We're at Anzac Cove and you know, having a look around the war graves. There's thousands of war graves and young blokes on the headstones, you know, 18, 19 years of age. And if the truth be known, they were probably 15 or 16. If that had have occurred in a different era, it could have been my sons.
And the band played waltzing Matilda.
Well, that was really, that was one hell of an experience, and it actually made the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
Say eerie's a good word. It was just remembering or trying to imagine what those young men were going through coming ashore.
Well, I remember that terrible day when our blood stained the sand and the water.
Grandfather was an Anzac. He came back from Gallipoli. He was wounded twice. His name was in the bow of the boat.
Like lambs at the slaughter.
We weren't supposed to land on the Anzac Cove. We were told, no, you can't do that. So we had to stop the beach before Brighton Beach. And at the time we said, well, this is disappointing. What would our forefathers have done? We'll apologise later. So we all hopped back in the boat and rode around Anzac Cove. And it worked out extremely well. Fantastic service. Helicopters were above, security were on their way. We got in the boats, we went back to Brighton Beach.
Matilda, as we stopped to bury our slain.
We went in and there was a guy from one of the Sydney clubs. He was an army bugler. And we all went ashore and put the oars up in the boat as a mark of respect, and then he blew the last post. And mate,
the numbers grow fewer.
Even now, you know, the tears were just flowing.
We'll march there.
It was unbelievable, just so emotional.
Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, who'll come a-waltzing Matilda with me. And their ghosts may be heard as you pass by the billabong.
When we rode Gallipoli, we put a lot of names on the boat. My brother's on there, he's on the other side.
There's no formula for happiness that's guaranteed to work. It all depends on how you treat your friends and how much you've been hurt.
You know, when Ron's brother Ken passed away, you know, obviously it was a very sad time, and Ronnie came up with the idea. He said, with the old mate surf boat, and now we've got, you know, a boat with 80 odd names on it.
There's no dream of...
The list of names being added to the old mate's boat is growing steadily. On this Saturday afternoon, they would add another mate, Reg Cannon's son Dave. Cano was a boatie with the Mooloolaba Surf Lifesaving Club.
And we've got mates from all over the place.
Wonderful legacy.
From coast to coast, we got the old mates on there. There might not be enough room on there for us, John.
The story that we tell the families when we put the name on the boat, that their son or their husband will still be rowing with their old mates. They'll still be in the boat, enjoying the row, and so it's fantastic.
When I first heard about the story of the Old Mates crew, I had no idea that I'd done a story on them many years ago as a young television sports journalist. That was 1987, and my first introduction to Keith Spaz Hurst.
Now, once we make our mind up to do it, we'll do it.
The Noosa Old Boys were using a borrowed boat from Northcliffe, and on this wild day would need to call on all their years of experience.
The adrenaline flows, the water changes colour, the dumping sand. You can have that blue water, it's lovely.
With you, now what you gonna do?
He was a larrikin, and officials didn't like him. Surf Life Saving really weren't keen on him, but he was a significant figure in surf life saving, especially in the surf boats.
You never knew what was going to happen next, and we never stopped laughing.
Grunts and tics and spasms. Hence my nickname, Spaz.
You know, Keith was suffering from Tourette's syndrome, and he couldn't stop saying the F word, and it didn't matter where we were or who we were with. It just kept coming, and we just enjoyed his company so much we never stopped laughing.
Most people I know think that I'm crazy.
You can't have a conversation with the Old Mates crew without it leading to a story about Keith. One of the more infamous yarns came about when the boys were rowing in the Brisbane River, preparing for marathon rowing events.
We'd row long distances on a fixed seat sliding up and down. We had the backside cut out of our togs.
The chafing on their backsides from their togs had become so severe and uncomfortable, Keith suggested they row nude.
And Keith said, righto, stop the boat. He said, everyone take their togs off.
And where were you rowing at the time?
Where? We were probably up near the Story Bridge.
But it was just their bad luck that a tourist up on the bridge took a photo of our carefree crew and sent it off to the paper.
Now listen, we're stepping out.
We went to a surf carnival this particular weekend, and someone said, nice photograph of you blokes in the paper this morning. I think it was a Sunday Truth. And we said, what about it? Really, we didn't know about it. Anyway, we got into a bit of trouble. But it worked, because the marathon that we were training for on the Brisbane River, we won that one. Then we went to New Zealand for their annual marathon, we won that one. And you know, we kept our togs on in those races.
They gave him the honour of starting a race, a boat race, you know, with the gun. Spaz fired the gun and all 8 boats went into a wall of water. And he said, I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to do that. None of them got going, you know. That was the sort of thing he'd do. He was, and like at one of the Australian titles, he was going to let the tent down on all the officials. He was going, he did.
Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we choose, we'd fight and never lose, for we were young and sure to have our way.
We had a bit of a chat before the first race, and Rocky said, I don't think you need to discuss too much, boys. We all know how to row and what we're going to do. He said, but if anything, I'd make sure you practice your skills are up to date, how to get into an IRB. You know, I just looked at him, had a bit of a laugh. Of course, I'd never been picked up in an IRB in my life in 56, 57 years of rowing. Well, that day we hit a smashing, solid wave. And down we went big time over, whoop, and I got my leg caught in the foot strap and cut my heel a bit, and I was under the boat for a little while, and I got up and and the surf was kept coming and the white water, and this IRB rolled up beside me. He said, "Do you want a lift?" I said, "I think I will, mate."
The memories of those days will, of course, last forever. But there's no doubt, with the passing of time, things are getting tougher. A number of things, like getting the boat out of the water, are not getting any easier.
You've seen us trying to put that boat back on the trailer. We were on the beach one day down at the Spit, and all these big tall girls come along, and I said, "Hey girls, can you do us a favour? You come and give us a lift with the boat." So we had the Brisbane netball team. They were up there for a training weekend, so we had the netballers lifting our boat for us. It was good.
Ready, go again, go! But with these old mates, there's always a way to laugh off adversity. And there's certainly no doubting their will to keep having a go. So you have to think they'll do their best to keep on finding a way. And there's no doubt being there for each other will continue to be a huge part of their journey.
You know where he is this weekend? He's taken the boat, old mates, down to Sydney to say farewell to a bloke, so his name will go on the boat now. They're driving all the way to Sydney for 3 days to go to this service on Saturday.
Taking the boat with them?
Taking the boat with them. And Ron, the other fella going with him, who owns the boat with John, works full time. And off they go, because that's what they do.
You know, people just check in to see how you're going, and you know, we all go through tough times. Gary said a bit of cancer, I had cancer, and then I had a stroke 2 years later after a training session. Hey, who knows? And just the fact that John and Gary and Ronnie would check in on me almost daily just gave you will to live.
I'm on your side.
Oh, look, I think as long as I can sort of get in the boat and still, you know, do a passable, what we call a stroke, then I'll just keep doing it for as long as I can. I think, you know, Father Time will tell me when it's time. Won't be able to do it anymore.
We don't see any reason just to stop because of a bit of age. I remember I went to a doctor once and he said, "Oh, what do you do for your recreation?" I said, "Oh, I row surf boats." He said, "Well, you still think you're 21?
You wouldn't let them down. You wouldn't let them down because first thing is they talk about you. The next thing they'd be putting rubbish on you and abusing you. Why didn't you turn up? So no, it's all good, mate. It's part of being part of the crew.
Well, respect is all part and parcel of being mates and good people.
It's a great thing that Ronnie and John did and put that together. You just don't want your name on there. If you get it on early, I said, can you just put the masking tape over it? Don't take the tape off you.
All of us, we all agree that joining a surf club was one of the best things that we ever did in our lives.
Every now and again I think to myself, oh yeah, I'm at the twilight end. I've climbed up the ladder, I've climbed down the other side, I'm on about the bottom rung, but I'm just not going to take that last step.
I'm sailing right behind.
And so it'll go on until we're all gone. Had a new family, and we've still got it, amazingly, eh? 70s and 80s. Right, 1 and 3, go. Yep. Are we there?
We're going to get rid of the oil.
Have you got an hour to kill?
Right, guys.